Making grass is one of the first things many people learn to do when starting their game dev journey. Since my last video came out, a lot of people have been asking for a more in-depth explanation on how to recreate the grass effect. There's 1,000,001 ways we could make grass in Godot, but I wanted to show you the thought process behind my grass so that you could better understand the patterns and techniques that I use to create my shaders, and maybe inspire you to make your own. Recently, I've made quite a few updates to the grass, which I think make it look much better. Let's quickly recap what stayed the same. Each piece of grass is spawned on a floor plane using a multi-mesh instance node. I'm using quad meshes and setting them to face their Z direction upon spawning so that the normals are in line with the terrain they spawn on. This is important to ensure correct lighting calculations later on. After spawning, I attach this Toon shader to the quads as a base, which I'm going to edit to get some extra effects. We set the albedo to our desired colour and select a grass sprite as our albedo texture. Setting the alpha scissor to 1, the unwanted bits will disappear. We'll turn off shadow casting and billboard the quads so that they always face the camera. This should get you a grass that looks like this. From here, I've changed up a few things. Previously, I had to recompile Godot to allow me to modify the vertex information inside of the fragment shader. Many of you pointed out that I can send information from the vertex shader to the fragment shader using varyings, which is correct, and that's exactly what I was doing. The reason I had to recompile Godot was to allow me to change the vertex values after the vertex shader had already run. This meant that the vertices would appear on screen in one place, but their shadows could be calculated based on the position I modified it to in the fragment shader. This method is now completely obsolete, however, as Godot 4.3 introduced the light vertex built-in, which allows you to do exactly that without having to recompile the engine. There are two main ways we can add heterogeneity to visually break up the grass, and those are color patches and accent grass. To get our grass patches, in the fragment shader, we can sample world space noise textures, checking them against the threshold value to determine which grass color is chosen. Repeat the process with a new noise texture in color, and it starts to look a lot more full. I made sure to do this on both the grass and the floor below it to ensure consistent coloring. For the accent grass, we create a random seed value based on the instance ID of each quad. Comparing it to a threshold value, we can modify a subset of grass quads to be visually distinct, changing their size and height in the vertex shader and their color and sprite in the fragment shader. Like with the color patches, do this a couple of times, and now we have a real nice variation. Previously, I was rotating the quads in view space using a sine function with time. This worked fine for the video demo, but I'd like to have an immersive weather system in my game, and this simple rotation just doesn't quite cut it, so I decided to make the rotation consistent in world space. This way I can better simulate wind moving through the grass and displacing it. Before the billboarding is applied, I sample a noise texture at the world coordinates of our grass center, which is going to act as our wind. In the sampling calculation, I include time, speed, and direction, which will modulate the noise texture in said direction at that speed as time passes. To calculate the world space axis that I want my quads to rotate around, I take the wind direction and find its perpendicular vector using this calculation. I then set a maximum angle that I want them to rotate and scale the rotation based on the wind value from our noise texture. That noise texture works as a start, but it has no variation and could quickly become repetitive. It's something that most people wouldn't notice, but I think it's these little details that separate good from excellent. Instead of sampling one noise texture, here's what I do. Take the wind direction and rotate it by a divergence angle. Do this for both a positive and negative rotation, saving each direction separately. Sample the noise texture at the grass center using time, speed, and the first direction. Then do the same for the other direction, but change the speed and UV scale of the noise. Using an irrational number, like pi, in this calculation, should make it so that when you sample both noises, they never repeat the same pattern. This, of course, is subject to the accuracy of pi that Godot is approximating, though in our case, it's good enough. Multiplying the two noises together and clamping them between 0 and 1 gives us a noise pattern that looks like this. The last touch is adding an arbitrary value to adjust the brightness of the pattern. Taking our new calculated noise and plugging it into the rotation, we get something that looks like this. Here I've set the albedo to the sampled noise value so you can better see what's going on. One issue that arises with world space rotation is that as we're using an orthogonal camera, that is, a camera with no perspective, it's hard to tell which way the grass is rotating at certain angles. My solution to this was adding back in a fake perspective in the shader. The idea is to simply scale up and down the top part of the quad as the grass moves towards or away from the camera. I first tried altering the quad's UVs in the vertex shader, which is passable, but it doesn't work in the extremes, as only one of the two triangles our quad is made of is being manipulated, and therefore the texture is only being squished on that triangle, which doesn't look quite right. The solution that worked was scaling the UVs in the fragment shader instead. Multiplying the UVX by a scale factor, we can shrink or stretch the grass sprite from the albedo texture. This will scale around 0, however, so we need to minus 0.5 from our UVX before scaling, and add it back again after scaling, before clamping the result between 0 and 1 to stop the texture from tiling. In our scaling calculation, we're going to take the noise sample from our wind and multiply it by a scaling value to control the intensity of the effect. Because we only want this effect to occur when the camera's view is parallel to the wind direction, we can use the dot product of these two vectors to return a value between 0 and 1 based on their alignment, which we will then use to scale the effect. But hang on a minute, this isn't quite right yet. We're currently scaling the whole sprite. If we want a fake perspective, we need to only scale the parts that move to and from the camera. If we think about how this should work, the parts that move the most should have their size change the most, and every other part should be scaled proportionally based on how much it moves. I've talked a lot about UVs, but I haven't really explained what they are. UVs are a set of 2D coordinates that tell the renderer where to place the textures on a mesh. X holds the red channel and Y holds the green channel, and when combined, they look like this. What's cool is, we can actually sample the UV coordinates and use that number in our calculation. The Y-axis is perfect for this, as it holds a vertical gradient of values from 0 to 1 that we can use to proportionally scale our calculation. Right now, it's the opposite of what we want, so we will minus it from 1 to invert it, then multiply it by our noise sample from before and add 1 to the final result. Like I mentioned before, after scaling, we need to add back the 0.5 we took off before scaling and clamp the value, and now it should look like the grass has perspective with its movement despite the camera being orthogonal. With just the world space rotation, the grass still feels like it's missing something. Adding back in the view space rotation from before at minimal levels keeps it feeling alive and animated. Some animations have a certain charm to them that come from the use of low frame rates. I wanted to see if I could capture this charm using the same technique for the grass movement. At first, I tried to quantize the rotation, restricting its movement only to certain positions. This worked on the surface, but I soon realized the effect fell apart when rotating through small angles, only updating at certain angular thresholds. On top of that, the frame rate was not consistent.
Not quite my tempo.
As it relied on rotation speed, something that was changing constantly throughout the rotation. I instead quantized the time value and sampling the wind noise. This solved those two issues from before, but uncovered another. Because every leaf was updating on the same frame, it just looked laggy. I needed a way to make each grass instance move at a set frame rate, but not update at the same time as the others to avoid the laggy feeling. But this would mean I need something that's unique to each grass instance in the calculation. I ended up using the world location of the grass and randomizing it to get a location seed. Finding the modulus of the seed with respect to frame time, we get a value between 0 and the frame time, which we can use to shift the phase of each leaf's frame rate individually. By doing this, I was able to fix the laggy feeling while still capturing that low frame rate charm. I'd say it looks pretty good, but I can't decide which frame rate looks the best. Let me know which one you like the most in the comments.
I'm not finished.
Another subtle detail that I wanted to add was to have grass move reactively based on the character's movement in the scene. As I'd already figured out how to rotate the grass both in view space and world space, I thought this would be pretty easy to implement, right?
Very nice words, but happens to be wrong.
I ended up trying a few different methods to rotate the grass sprites based on their position relative to the player and the vector that connects them in world space. But I just couldn't figure it out. Doing it this way, it would work from some camera angles, but then from others, the grass would be rotating completely the wrong way, or worse, a mix of both. I was scratching my head for quite a long time before I worked out that if I separated the rotation around the view space Z and X axes, it would simplify things and I could have a lot more control over what was happening. While editing this video, I realised what I was doing wrong before, but I'm happy I didn't earlier, because I actually prefer the other method that I came up with when it wasn't working properly. The first thing we do is calculate an intensity mask for the rotation effect. This is based on the distance from the player's position to the origin of each piece of grass and scaled by our radius size. This gives us a circular gradient around the player's location, but it's flipped, so we need to minus it from 1 to invert it, and then we can raise it by an exponent to control the steepness of the gradient. Now that we have our mask, for each of the grass quads that are currently in a position to be displaced, we calculate the direction from the player to this quad. Again, using the dot product, we can calculate the alignment of this vector to the camera's forward vector. This will give us a pattern that looks like this, which we can use to rotate to and from the camera around the view space x-axis. Calculating the dot product of this vector and the vector perpendicular to the camera's direction, we will instead get this, which we can use to rotate around the view space z-axis. Combining our mask with each of the dot product values separately, we get a displacement value for each axis, which can be used to rotate the quad around those axes. We also send one of these values to the fragment shader to fake perspective like we did before. This looks great, but only supports one location for grass displacement. So what if I want to have multiple characters in my scene? Well, I did some digging, and it turns out that you can pass an array of character positions to the shader. Though, Godot shaders do not support dynamic array sizing, so the number of elements has to be constant, which could be a problem if you've got characters spawning and despawning. But that's okay, because I've got a workaround. I created a character manager node that keeps track of all the objects in the scene that are in the character group. In the shader code, I set our array size to 64 characters, so the character manager creates an array of 64 vector 4s with all values set to 0. These vector 4s contain the location of the character and the size of the displacement radius for that character. Then, the character manager loops through all the objects in the character group and saves their location to the elements in the array, leaving all the other entries as zeros. Passing these values to the shader, we can loop through each of the elements in this array and calculate the displacement for each character based on the size and location, cumulatively adding them together before clamping them between -1 and 1 to get our final rotation value. What's great about this is that all of the elements in the array with zeros will not cause any displacement as their size value is set to 0. Therefore, the size of the radius they affect is 0. This solves our problem of not being able to use dynamic array sizes in the shader. So now we have multiple characters whose displacement effect can be combined. All that's left to do in terms of displacement is convert it to a lower frame rate. I haven't found any way that I can do this reliably in the shader, but what worked for me is adding logic to the character manager to only update the positions on given ticks based on a frame rate that we provide. Generally, having this frame rate a little higher than the frame rate of the wind rotation looks better, especially when you might have characters that move through the grass quickly. With this, it really starts to look authentic, almost like a hand-drawn animation. When a grass instance moves from one lighting cut to another, the change is abrupt, which can break immersion. Not to mention leaves on the border of lighting cuts, which sometimes create these ugly flickering artifacts. To fix this, I've come up with a solution that I'm calling hybrid toon shading. I'm sure I'm not the first person to use this technique, but I've never seen anyone talk about it before. The general premise of the idea is that we want to retain the stepped toon shading, but smooth the transitions between the lighting cuts to feel more natural. We define a variable, threshold gradient size, between 0 and 1 that determines how much of each cut we want the smooth gradient to cover. The number of cuts we set determines how many light bands the toon shader calculates, and the inverse of this number gives us the width of a single lighting band. We will take the lighting value, round to the closest threshold, and build a gradient around it. We then see how far along the gradient our lighting value falls, and smooth step between the two lighting cuts using this value. If it falls outside the gradient, we just default to the standard toon shader. The result should be similar to a simple toon shader, but the hard edges are subtly smoothed out. This works great for our grass instances, as it looks like each blade of grass quickly fades to the next cut instead of abruptly snapping. Last but not least, let's talk about clouds. When I initially developed the clouds in my game, I used a large quad with a noise texture to cast shadow onto my scene based on the shader I found on this Reddit post. This had its limitations though, with camera clipping and finite size causing it to look bad at certain camera angles and light directions respectively. I then realized I could store a 2D noise texture as a global shader variable, which completely changed how I thought about this. We can simulate clouds casting a shadow using this noise texture as long as we have a world space coordinate, light direction, and a world space height for the clouds. With this information, we can march along the light direction using linear algebra to solve for the x and z coordinates at which the light intersects our world space height. At this position, we sample the noise, which will return a value from 0 to 1 that we can apply to the diffuse light. Like with the wind, we can animate these clouds by offsetting our sample by time, speed, and direction. I put this all inside a handy function called getCloudNoise that is stored inside a shader include file. If you don't know what that is, it's a type of shader file that you can import to other shaders by using the include tag. These are great for storing functions like our cloud sampler, because we can then include them in many different shaders without having to duplicate the code. You can change the global shader values for the clouds in the project settings under Global and Shader Globals. Though, for ease of access, I created a note to store and update the global shader variables upon changes, which I'll probably turn into a weather system node at some point in the future. After all that, we have some pretty sweet looking stylized grass. Although I'm still in the early development stages, I've made a Steam page for the game. If you'd like to play it in the future, go ahead and add it to your wishlist. I've left a link to a demo project in the description so you can have a look and see how it all works under the hood. If you make your own grass using this method, come and show me in the Discord, I'd love to see. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.